In talking about Code Geass, I want to focus on one. I was going to focus on one of the two characters that were the most important in the stories, Suzaku and and Lelouch. I am on the side of Lelouch, and I'm going to try to explain at least what I believe in, because I feel strongly about politics, and Code Geass is all about politics. So, Suzaku believes that change can come within the system, whereas Lelouch believes change can come in destroying the system and replacing it with something new. And I think that I would go along more with Lelouch, because if you look at the history of countries such as the United States, or the history of empires, how they always tend to collapse, it's always been a corrupt and rotten type of system. And people who have tried to change it from within the system, it never works out for them, because the system demands action out of the individual. An individual cannot change a system, because if you look at the United States, for example, people think of a president as a dictator. The president cannot do whatever the president wants. The president has Congress and the Senate to keep the president in check. There's also the military and the military industry complex, which has its own set of leaders. You have the FBI and the CIA, who have been involved in very suspicious type of behavior, even amongst themselves and other politicians. You have all these elements that control a country, or one person cannot. It will be impossible for one person to ever change anything in the political system in America, because to be a politician and to move up to the presidency, you don't just go to school, study, do your best. You have to move up through a political ladder, and it's a game. You can't just go about it thinking that if you do the right thing all the time, you're gonna make it. You're gonna make it to the very top. You gotta play a political game to get to the very top, because the politics in America is a very dirty and a very dirty system. And anybody who's ever tried to go into it to change it from the inside has always failed. Nobody has succeeded. Now, the only progress that we have made are from people who are rebellious, people who don't believe in the system, people who have lost faith in the system, people who think that it should be replaced with something new. Because these people have fought and shed blood and fought against the army, the police, against politicians, corrupt and powerful people. And they have many times pushed the system into giving some kind of relief. Now you could also say that there are people that also believe in the system, and they protested to bring something positive out of it. But a lot of people were very naive, and a lot of them got killed. A lot of them were assassinated. We already know that this country has a counterintelligence program that was created in the 60s to prevent the rise of any other kind of leader that was, like, at the time, Malcolm X specifically, and Martin Luther King Jr. What they found out was that they need to prevent people from reaching the point that Malcolm X and Martin Luther King made, and take them out when they're young. That's why we haven't seen anybody like them since. And a really, really big example of what made COINTELPRO a success in the way that it operated was Fred Hampton. He was the charismatic leader of the Chicago branch of the Black Panther Party. He was assassinated by the Chicago police, and it was settled through court, and the family was given money for the wrongful assassination of this young man, because they were afraid of what this kid was capable of if he would have become too big in the limelight. And so, considering this, how can you change a system from within? So Suzaku is very politically naive. He doesn't understand that when the system is as rotten as this kind of system, it won't allow itself to change that way. And if it does, it's pretending. Because what have we seen? We've seen the passage of laws that are supposed to protect us, but the government cannot enforce the law. They're not doing anything to make sure that the laws are being followed. So there's still segregation, there's still discrimination, and the laws that are supposed to be protecting us from that are just on paper, not doing anything at all towards being enforced and protecting us. So laws, you cannot rely on laws. They're useless. It's the entire system that is corrupt. It is the entire system that needs to be destroyed and replaced for its brutality of its people. And that is where Lelouch sees Britannia, as a corrupt oppressive regime that needs to be destroyed and replaced with Japan, the former country that was destroyed and replaced as Area 11. And early in the series, he tries to recruit Suzaku, but Suzaku does not believe in the methods that Lelouch believes in because according to Suzaku, Lelouch is shedding too much blood. He thinks his methods are too violent and meaningless. But again, that is to be politically naive. You can't expect change unless there's bloodshed. There has to be bloodshed. In fact, any change we have ever been able to benefit from has been a result of bloodshed and deaths. It's a war. And again, this is what Lelouch understands, and this is why he goes to the extent to try to destroy Britannia. And when he goes on TV, he tries to educate the masses. He tries to educate them, wake them up, because I know, recognizes that when a country is in control, it needs the majority of its people to think backwards, and it needs the majority of its people to be out of touch with reality and believing in fantasies and things that are just not true. Like, it's all about themselves. It makes them selfish and not care about anybody else. You know, helping out a homeless man is more than throwing a coin at him. You have to do more than that. You have to do more than just pray. You know, a real religious person, a real Christian, has to be revolutionary. It has to be. Like how Jesus said that this man went to hell, not because he didn't walk by a poor man, or not because he didn't see the poor man. People don't really see the homeless. To them, it's like to them, people are invisible, and that's why he went to hell. And so what I'm saying is that when it comes to consciousness, and when it comes to things like fascism, the goal of fascism is the complete destruction of all revolutionary consciousness. And that's what we're seeing in places like America. I mean, there are places like China and North Korea where it's just really, really just terrible and obvious and overt. But in America, people don't really understand that they are also being conditioned to think this kind of way. Now think about it. When you're young and you're in school, what do the movies and TV shows and magazines and video games teach you? That the kids who study, the kids who want to be smart, the kids who read are what? They're nerds. They get outcasted. They get made fun of for speaking with good diction, with you having good vocabulary, for getting good grades. They're made fun of. And the people who are getting the worst grades, who are the class clown, just completely disruptive and just failing in school, they're the ones that are looked upon as cool. Now, people are going to look at that, little kids, and they're not going to want to be the guy that's smart, because they don't want to be the guy that's going to get called a bookworm and a nerd and be made fun of. They want to be the guy that's stupid, because that's the guy that's popular. That's the guy that's considered cool and hip. That's what they get taught at a young age by movies and shows, as I've seen. And this all plays into effect in what favors the system, the creative people who are just uneducated. They are uneducated to their education. That is how backwards education is in this country. And we look at when people get older, it gets worse, because then you start to see people say, "Oh, people love the things that," as Amos Wilson said, people love the things that destroy them. I mean, people love the things that destroy them, and they hate the things that make them grow. Like people say, I want to party, I want to do drugs, I want to drink, I want to screw, and then but they hate learning, they hate doing things that help them grow. They spiritually, consciously, they hate things that are good for them. And this is something that is also built into them by, again, movies, television shows, other people that are falling for this type of fantasy, video games. And this is done because if the majority of people were into learning and into growing, thinking, philosophy type things, they would overthrow the system. They would overthrow it. And so that's one of the big issues when it comes to these type of systems. Now Sukazu, I don't think, realizes any of this, because he's too stuck on that the law must be always just. The law must be always right. You know, it's too crooked and corrupt, and that's why I favor Lelouch, which I'm pretty sure he would agree with these things that I'm saying, because he's up going on TV trying to raise the consciousness of the people to wake up from the corruption of Britannia. So I would side with Lelouch's strategy. Now, I have seen only season 1 and 2 episodes of season 2, but I will finish season 2 pretty fast, and I'll see how these views evolve and change for both of these characters. And maybe it'll be different. That's what I think.